According to my past life's trajectory, the crown prince would gift me the wild goose he shot with his own hands during the autumn hunt, presenting the goose as a betrothal gift Jan. But this time, he chose Zhang Zhaoying. I still remember before I died of illness in my past life, he said indifferently. I only wish in our next life we remain strangers, not a resentful couple. I poured my heart and blood out for him for over a decade, yet he feared my ruthless decisiveness and dreaded my scheming calculations. This time, he chose someone else. Yet, I congratulate him on rekindling his old flame and fulfilling his long-cherished wish. Years later, the rebel king stirred chaos, and warlords carved up territories. At the height of the war, Jiang Corporation left the capital in a huff and was captured by the rebels. He lost 3 cities in succession. When the realm lay shattered, he said with regret, "Yue Zheng, among all women in this world, only you understand me and help me." The crown prince had the wild goose he personally shot delivered to Zhang Zhaoying. Presenting the goose as a betrothal gift, everyone gasped aloud. This was where the crown prince's heart lay. His gaze lingered on me for only a moment before indifferently moving away. Just from that one glance, I knew he had also come back, because that gaze was just as cold as in our past life. I wished to present this wild goose as a betrothal gift, seeking to marry a noble lady of Jiang Corporation. The crown prince's eyes were full of tenderness, his gaze filled with the satisfaction and delight of finally making up for past regrets. Zhang Zhaoying's eyes reddened slightly, as if caught off guard, her face full of astonishment. But everyone's gazes fell on me, their expressions teasing, watching a joke unfold. Unacceptable. The Empress's slightly authoritative voice cut off the words the Crown Prince was about to say. Crown Prince, Princess Yue Zheng is the one His Majesty and this palace have chosen as your Crown Princess. The Crown Prince retorted, "She is stubborn by nature, obstinate in her views, and has many disagreements with your son. If you have your way today, Mother Empress, I fear your son will live in melancholy hereafter, regretting it for the rest of his life. Your son would rather never take a crown princess than ever choose her." Such cutting words did not break me. I didn't feel heartache. Having heard it too many times, all that remained was numbness. I shot back. "Thank you, Your Majesty and Your Highness, for your kind regard. But this humble subject also does not like the Crown Prince. His Highness is indecisive, unable to distinguish right from wrong, and arrogant to a fault, and with nothing but a pretty face. He truly fails to spark any interest." As my words fell, everyone gasped. Never before had anyone spoken of the Crown Prince this way. My father is the King of Yue, a regional lord in his own right. When the founding emperor conquered the realm and established the Great Yin dynasty, he enfoffed 7 kingdoms across the land, each ruling a region. Among them were 3 kings of different surnames, and my Yue clan was one of them. The ancestors of the Yue family followed the founding emperor in conquering the realm with distinguished merit, and the Princess of Yue was no less noble than the princesses at court. This marriage depended not only on his wishes, but also on mine. At the end of my previous life, Shi Zhuo and I were always quarreling for no reason, regarding each other as enemies. Having returned to my youth, there is really no need to waste these good years on such things. I said nonchalantly, "Since you've rekindled your old love and fulfilled your long-cherished wish, I naturally offer my congratulations." His expression was stunned for a moment, and he already knew I had returned at the same time as him. Returning to our youth, I didn't expect the first thing to happen would be severing the bond between us. Perhaps, in others' eyes, I should be resentful and unwilling, or feel my heart being cut by knives. But I felt none of that. After everyone had dispersed, Zhang Zhaoying carefully walked to my side and said slowly, "Wingzhu, I have indeed admired the Crown Prince for a long time, but he was always distant and cold to me before, showing no affection. I truly don't know why he suddenly changed his mind. Her tone couldn't contain her elation and excitement, joy overflowing in her expression. At this time in my previous life, Zhang Zhaoying's feelings were known throughout the capital. But back then, Crown Prince Xizhuo didn't like her and completely ignored her affections. He was full of youthful spirit, yet always competed with me. During the autumn hunt, he presented the wild goose he personally shot down to me. Back then, with his hair gently swaying, he raised his eyebrow smugly and said, "This is my betrothal gift for my future crown princess." Amid everyone's envious gazes, I accepted with a smile. Not long after, the imperial edict of marriage was bestowed. Back then, we smiled with eyes curved in joy, always believing our youthful vows could outlast the long years ahead. After he ascended the throne, we were once a young emperor and empress of one heart and mind, sharing glory and disgrace as one. If the story had stopped there, it would have been a tale of love passed down through generations. Yet unexpectedly, one day the realm shattered, storms swept the land, and warlords rose on all sides. I had to stay by his side, guarding this broken nation, suppressing rebel ministers with him, and rebuilding a peaceful, prosperous world. A game for the realm, years of raging wars, and we barely won. When the realm was finally settled, he and I could no longer return to the feelings of our youth. He asked me over and over, "Where did that frank and pure Yue Zheng from our youth go?" I wanted to ask the same. But to secure the nation and protect our home, I had no choice. I weighed the pros and cons. I schemed tirelessly, and even my hands were stained with blood. In turbulent times, he said, "With you here, I feel at ease." When the realm was stable, he said, "The you of now, Dan, your thoughts are unfathomable, making me shudder in the dead of night." From that moment on, I felt it wasn't worth it. His temperament wasn't resilient enough. He couldn't be a ruler of great ambition and vision. His abilities were barely enough to maintain what he had. When the world fell into chaos and lives were devastated, all he had was panic and helplessness. I had no choice but to hold everything together. But my decisive killings and strategic calculations only earned his later wariness and suspicion. From initial probing to the eventual shattering of trust, the bond between us came to an end. Zhang Zhaoying's devoted heart over the years had never changed, and her tenderness moved him. Her gentle attentiveness warmed his panicked and restless heart amidst the chaos of war. Our child asked him, "Father Emperor, isn't Mother Empress your true love? Why would you hurt her heart like this?" But he at that time, after a long silence, only said one thing, "Aunts, I loved your Mother Empress the most. Now I simply love one more person." I stood under the corridor in the distance, hearing his answer with my own ears. Could it be that you and His Highness had a quarrel, which made him act out like this in spite? Zhang Zhaoying's words pulled me back from my thoughts. I looked at the scene before me, my tone slightly heavy. "You needn't ask about my past with him. Just mind your own future." As my words fell, I turned and rode away on horseback. Several days later, an imperial edict was issued, establishing Zhang Zhaoying as the crown princess. The maidservant Qingyang carefully asked me, "Wangzhu, you were summoned to the capital 2 years ago, originally to await marriage. Now that complications have arisen, you should quickly send a letter to the king to explain the situation and ask him to make decisions for you." Such a trivial matter, why bother informing Father King? I can make my own decisions. Qingyang's eyes were full of confusion. How could the position of crown princess be a trivial matter? She naturally wouldn't understand. When storms suddenly rise in days to come, when the nation ceases to be a nation, when imperial power falls to the wayside, when the lords await their chance to act, when the rebel king declares himself emperor, then what would a mere position of crown princess even count for? All trajectories remained as before. Only the crown princess chosen by Xizhuo had become Zhang Zhaoying. She entered the Eastern Palace, and the wedding ceremony was extremely grand. The wedding procession didn't need to pass by my residence, yet it deliberately detoured here. Drums and music sounded together, very lively. I heard the crown prince personally welcomed the bride, to show his regard. When passing outside my residence, the music and drums sounded especially loud. I flipped through the book in my hands, without lifting my eyes. Such tricks were still the same as in my past life, but I no longer wanted to spare him even half a glance. The Eastern Palace's crown princess suddenly changed, and there was much talk among the people. Xie had done many things for me before, and old matters were brought up again, but such rumors made Zhang Zhaoying restless. Suspicion quietly grew in her heart, and she sent people to secretly inquire about my past with the crown prince. I noticed her little schemes, but I pretended not to know. She had admired Xie for a long time. Her feelings of many years finally received a response, and she should have cherished it well, but her possessiveness and desire to pry revealed that she wasn't at ease with any of this. She dug out many items in the Eastern Palace. Among them was a set of wooden carved dolls. They were carved by Xie own hands and given to me. I once had someone return every single thing he had given me in the past, without missing a single one. Unexpectedly, they were dug out by her. A hint of jealousy lurked in her eyes. "Princess, I know you have a past with His Highness, but he abandoned you and chose me during the autumn hunt. Times are different now, and in the years to come, I am the one who understands his heart and stands by his side. I hope the princess will mind her place and not overstep." My gaze fell on her face. Though her words just now sounded tough, she seemed to be putting on a brave front. "What the crown prince values is your gentleness, thoughtfulness, and understanding nature. If you can't get that straight, you'll lose big over small gains someday. Your desire to pry and possess will be your undoing," I said slowly. Her eyes flickered for a moment, then lowered slightly. The princess needn't trouble herself. After Zhang Zhaoying talked with me that day, she fell seriously ill upon returning, bedridden and very weak. This caused Xie to rush over in a fury, kicking the manor gate so hard that the servants trembled in fear. "What exactly did you say to her to hurt her so badly that her fever won't break, and she is bedridden with serious illness?" He was full of rage, just like before. I was arranging chess pieces, not getting up, my expression unchanged, dismissing the servants. In the harsh winter of the 11th year of Qingyuan, she has already used this kind of trick. Back then, she went to Fengyi Palace alone, under the pretense of paying respects, yet spoke out of turn. After returning to Xion Palace, she fell ill and couldn't get up. Afterwards, you took your anger out on me, and didn't set foot in Fengyi Palace for half a year. Today you came to make a scene, and that is surely her cure, Dan. Within 10 days, she should recover. After my reminder, Xie seemed to recall past events from our previous life, yet he was still stubborn and unwilling to admit it. If you want to find out the truth, just find any doctor from the street to enter the residence and check her pulse, and you'll know. After I finished speaking, he seemed lost in thought, but most of his anger had already dissipated. Those imperial physicians might have been bribed in advance, but a doctor he randomly brings back wouldn't give her room to tamper. When he left, his expression was listless, without the hostility and angry look he had when he came, past life and present. If the same trick is used again and he still can't see through it, then he deserves to be deceived. The imperial consort of Xion Palace, whom he greatly favored, was best at feigning illness to appear weak, retreating in order to advance. Later, Zhang Zhaoying made many enemies in the palace and was secretly poisoned by someone. But before she died, she still kept accusing and implicating me. The Yue woman couldn't tolerate me, harmed me to this extent. She breathed her last and died, yet left an indelible rift between me and Xie. He rebuilt the palace halls, set up eternal lamps as offerings, and invited Taoist alchemists into the palace, all just hoping the imperial consort would appear in his dreams. When I died of illness, he said, I only wish that in the next life we remain strangers, and not become a resentful couple. Now that he is living this life over again, what he is most grateful for is that Zhang Zhaoying is still alive, his old love still by his side, and he still has a chance to make up for all his regrets. But all of this has nothing to do with me anymore. People from Yue have arrived. On the day I entered the palace to bid farewell, I ran into Shejua again outside the palace. His expression was solemn, his gaze slightly lowered. The moment we came face to face, he finally spoke haltingly. Regarding what happened in the 11th year of Qingyuan, I wrongly blamed you. It seems he went to verify it. Was it only that one time? If I were to count each and every instance, I'm afraid there would be no end to it. Ye Zheng, you're always so aggressive, never giving anyone room to breathe. Zhou has already apologized and admitted her wrongs to me. She just cared too much about me and felt insecure. Why must you insist on arguing about who is right or wrong? Just wanting fairness makes me aggressive, I scoffed, unwilling to waste any more words on him. But he blocked my path and said, I know you're clever and resourceful. She is no match for you. The grudges between you two run deep across both lives. You have memories of your past life while she doesn't, Dan. This isn't fair to her. If you encounter her in the future, please be merciful, and don't make things difficult for her. You looked into the distance, where someone on a tall horse was. From now on, there is no need for me to see you or the crown princess again. What do you mean? Zijuo asked in astonishment. I'm going back to Yue. Shijuo followed my gaze, and the one who came on my royal father's orders was Feng Qi, a general of Yue. He was the same as back then, still on his white horse with silver saddle, stern and unsmiling. In my past life, when I was gravely ill, I had someone send word to Yue that after my death, I wouldn't enter the imperial mausoleum. I only wished to return to my homeland and be buried in the Yue royal tomb. It was also him who came to fetch me. At that time, gray hairs had also appeared at his temples. Having followed my royal father in battle for many years, protecting the people of Yue, he never married his whole life. What happened after that, I no longer knew. Wangzhu, I've come to take you home. I stepped toward Feng Che, but the crown prince suddenly grabbed my arm. Anger surfaced in his eyes as he said harshly, This life, you're choosing him? Your Highness has overstepped. This life, no matter who I choose, it has nothing to do with your Highness. As my words fell, he became agitated, his grip gradually tightening until it hurt. You can choose anyone, but absolutely not him. I raised my gaze slightly, inadvertently revealing mockery. Your Highness has forgotten your own status. The current you has no right to interfere with any of my decisions. I flung my hand away and effortlessly broke free from his restraint. Emotions churned in his eyes, yet he suppressed his anger. The moment I brushed past him, I stopped in my tracks and smiled pointedly. What your Highness wouldn't let me choose, I insist on choosing. Anger surged in his eyes, but what followed was helplessness. I ran quickly toward Feng Che. His usually stern face softened, and he quickly reached out his hand. I used his strength to mount the horse, riding together with him on the same steed. Wangzhu, I've come late. Shijuo's gaze was dark, falling between me and Feng Che, but I was unwilling to spare him another glance. Ye Zheng, did you plan all along to leave with him? Shijuo pressed again. So what if I did? I responded resoundingly. The moment my words fell, I had already raised the whip. Horse hooves splashing up grass and dust. Feng Che and I rode off into the distance, leaving Shijuo with only the echo of my voice lingering in the air. I returned to the Yue kingdom, as if a lifetime had passed. Returning to the old palace, every blade of grass and tree remained just as they were before. Feng Qi thought I was overwhelmed with longing after 2 years away. But in truth, it spanned a past life and this one. In my previous life, once I entered the capital, I never returned and finally died of illness there. This place was the homeland I longed for, When father learned the marriage was called off, he instead comforted me. The imperial family is complicated, and the deep palace is a difficult place. Better to stay in Yue Kingdom and be free. Back then, His Majesty issued a decree, and we had no choice but to comply. Now that the crown prince refuses, it is actually a good thing. Now seeing father's face again, it feels like a lifetime ago. In my past life, to help the imperial family quell the rebellion, father worked himself sick. Looking back now, none of it was worth it. In this life, Xiejuao's empire is his own to defend. My Yue clan will no longer pour out our hearts and shed blood fighting for him. Father, now that I have returned, I wish to take command of the Feiyun cavalry again. The Feiyun cavalry was personally selected and trained by me. Before I was summoned to the capital, they were my personal guard. Father agreed, but then he said, "Word from the capital says the crown prince's temperament has changed drastically, no longer the same as before. Do you know why? The current Xiejuo is no longer that young man, barely 20. Having lived through the wars of his past life and ruled as emperor for many years, even someone as indecisive as him now carries a certain air of authority and ruthlessness. People always change. Since the crown prince knows the heavy responsibility on his shoulders, he is naturally different from before." I responded lightly. Not long after I returned to Yue, I heard that His Majesty's energy was failing, often suffering from headaches, and the crown prince had already taken over as regent to handle daily state affairs. In his past life at this age, he couldn't shoulder such heavy responsibility. Now the court officials still harbor some doubts about him. Yet little did they expect that since he took charge of state affairs, he has shown good judgment in employing people and decisiveness in his rulings. Someone in court made a proposal, suggesting reducing the vassal king's power, saying, "When our ancestors founded the nation, they enfoffed vassal kings to serve as mutual shields, defend against foreign threats, and protect the capital. Now the vassal kings have grown too powerful and disaster from within is imminent. I implore your Majesty to make a decision soon." But that person was not given an important position. Instead, he was rebuked by Xiejuo, who accused him of sowing discord between kin and chilling the hearts of meritorious officials. He was demoted to the frontier, and has since vanished without a trace. Seeing that the crown prince had no intention of reducing the vassal king's power, all the kings breathed a sigh of relief. Apart from a few kings with different surnames, the remaining kings were all of imperial blood. The crown prince's rebuke put those people quite at ease. But I knew Xiejuo's move was nothing but a smokescreen, meant to make the kings lower their guard. When rebellion comes, what does kinship matter? Brothers taking up arms against each other is nothing new. If my guess is right, the one who proposed reducing the vassal king's power will surely be secretly put to important use by him. Xiejuo's current actions are merely a delaying tactic. Yue must not sit idly and await its doom. Royal Father, I spent 2 years in the capital, and have closely observed the court situation. Though it appears calm now, I fear war and turmoil will come. The imperial family and the vassal kings are already like fire and water. If disaster approaches, Yue must have the power to protect itself, so as to shelter its people from the ravages of war. A hint of surprise appeared on Royal Father's face. "Where did you hear this from?" "Father, within 5 years, the crown prince will surely move to abolish the fiefdoms, and the Prince of Yan will surely rebel." My tone was resolute. The certainty and seriousness in my tone caught his attention. The situation in this life was perhaps even more complicated. Xiejuo had experienced everything in his past life, and now that he had returned, he must be biding his time, ready to strike. When the day came for him to draw his blade, it would be aimed at the princes. Abolishing the fiefdoms was already an inevitable trend. Even if the Prince of Yan didn't rebel, Xiejuo might not tolerate him anyway. Father contemplated for a long while, then took out a token and placed it in my hands. 5 years ago, your elder brother passed away unexpectedly, and since then the position of heir has remained vacant. Now that I see you have foresight and a benevolent heart, and wish to protect the people of Yue, go ahead and do as you wish. I took the heavy jade tokens, and this meant he was allowing me to exercise my late brother's authority on his behalf. Father and mother were deeply devoted to each other, a pair for life, and had only 2 children beneath them, and my elder brother and me. Ever since mother and my elder brother passed away one after another, father seemed to have aged overnight, and had been dispirited for a long time. He often had nightmares in the middle of the night, calling out mother's and my elder brother's names. In the previous life, the Prince of Yan rebelled, and other treacherous officials rallied to his cause. In this life, if Shizhuo pressed on step by step, I fear the Prince of Yan wouldn't endure it for long. The great Yin dynasty had been established for 100 years now, spanning several generations, but by the current emperor's reign, the imperial family had declined while the feudal princes held dominant positions. The Prince of Yan occupied the northern lands, with strong soldiers and sturdy horses, watching covetously, full of ambition. If things developed as in my previous life, chaos would likely arise within a few years. For now, he is holding back, simply waiting for the right moment. In this life, falling out with Shi Zhuo at a young age and parting ways is also a blessing for me. I retook command of the Flying Cloud Cavalry, personally training them. When turmoil arises in the future, that will be when they each show their strengths. I also ordered the fortification of city defenses, recruitment of soldiers, and stockpiling of provisions. I led the palace physicians and personally went to the southwest, spending half a year to resolve the epidemic there. The next time I saw Shizhuo was 3 years later. Over these 3 years, everyone in court and beyond spoke of how diligent the crown prince was, handling countless affairs daily, working from dawn till dusk. Yet he came to Yue in person, all because the king of Yan had openly declared at his birthday banquet that he wished to seek the princess of Yue's hand for his heir. Within 10 days, envoys from Yan had arrived in Yue proclaiming, "We have heard that the princess of Yue possesses ethereal beauty and noble grace, while our crown prince of Yan is handsome and dignified. Both have reached marriageable age and truly a match made in heaven, a perfect pair. We wish to seek the princess of Yue's hand on behalf of our crown prince, uniting our 2 houses in a century Zan-long bond." Once the news spread, it caused a tremendous uproar. All eyes in the realm turned here. Worry appeared in father's eyes as well. Those ministers argued endlessly, spittle flying, each presenting the pros and cons, accept or refuse. Either way was difficult, but they seemed to have forgotten Zan. This decision should be mine to make. Feng Che rushed back through the night, carrying the chill of frost upon him, seeking an audience outside the palace. Requesting an audience with the princess. This general has a plan that can resolve the current dilemma. Outside the hall, heavy snow began to drift down. I put on my cloak and saw him standing under the corridor, his gaze blazing. If the princess is willing to consent to marriage, this general shall be the princess's reason to refuse the proposal. I noticed the dark circles under his eyes, covered in wind and snow. Then he must have worn himself out rushing back all this way. The young general, who had always been calm and composed now, had a hint of unease and nervousness in his eyes. I took the cloak from the maidservant's hands and passed it to him, but the words I spoke the next moment extinguished the glimmer of hope that had surfaced in his eyes. "Thank you for the general's kind intentions, but I am unwilling. I came back through Rebirth not to find another man to shelter me from wind and rain. I shall be a tall tree, not a clinging vine." Feng Che didn't know that several days ago, Father King had already mentioned that if I was willing, we could use the excuse that Feng Che and I already had a marriage agreement to refuse Yan Kingdom's proposal. He was a general of Ye Kingdom. If Father King claimed I already had a marriage agreement with him, forging a marriage certificate would indeed be the simplest matter. I was unwilling. Feng Qi did not press for the reason. His expression dimmed, but only for a moment. Then he turned and said to me firmly, "The princess may choose as her heart desires. This general will follow unto death, and will surely keep the princess safe." He departed into the vast expanse of falling snow. But I knew that there was someone else who was eager to stop this marriage. This matter wasn't mine to make difficult. On this trip, he would definitely come. When Shijuo appeared at the palace of Yue, I wasn't surprised. He had concealed his identity, traveling incognito. The king of Yan harbors wolfish ambitions, and his crown prince's marriage proposal is even more ill than intentioned. You should know this. The moment he saw me, his tone was laced with anger. "I know, so what?" I leisurely took a seat, responding nonchalantly. Seeing my utterly indifferent attitude, his voice rose another notch. "Are you planning to marry the crown prince of Yan and become my enemy?" He spoke in exasperation, his emotions running high. Right now, Yan's marriage proposal delegation was still staying at the guest house, just waiting for me to nod. Shijuo should be anxious. If I nodded in agreement, Yan and Yue would form a marriage alliance. United as one, and how much of a chance would he have in the future? Moreover, I had been husband and wife with him for over a decade, and knew him all too well. If we were to meet on the battlefield someday, I would be the one who knew all his weaknesses. Not to mention that in my past life I had experienced war firsthand, and stabilized the situation than just my understanding of him alone could give the king of Yan wings. If I insist on agreeing to this marriage, what do you plan to do? Kill me? I slowly stood up and approached him. His hands clenched slightly. His gaze froze for a moment, confusion and hesitation showing in his eyes. After a long while, he slowly said, "Even though in our past life everyone knew we turned against each other, that our bond was completely severed, I never once thought of killing you. Throughout that entire reign, you were the only empress in Fengyi Palace. In this life, even if we can't be husband and wife, I still don't wish to be enemies with you." His words scattered with the wind. I was indeed the only empress in Fengyi Palace, but that was because my Yue clan had distinguished merits, helping him pacify the realm. But later, he had a favored consort whose favor never waned, cherished, and beloved. I helped him escape, guarded Mo City in his stead. Everyone thought the emperor was there, drawing the rebel army's main forces to besiege it, never expecting that only I was in the city. With enemy troops at the gates and danger imminent, I bought him half a month's precious time. If I had known that devotion regardless of life or death would only earn me a cold throne and years of resentment, I would have treasured my life much more back then. I spoke teasingly, yet my words carried a hint of mockery. He fell silent for a moment, a trace of guilt surfacing in his eyes. Shijuo once said I was skilled at calculating people's hearts. Yes, this time I had long calculated that he would definitely come. The one who should be anxious to resolve this predicament was not me, but him. So from beginning to end, I never worried about this. The marriage alliance between Yan and Yue was a great threat to the court. This marriage brought him only harm and no benefit. He would definitely come to stop it. Or rather, he wanted even more to probe what my true stance was. The one weighing the pros and cons had become him. He didn't have the strength to kill me, nor did he dare to act rashly against me. He feared I would become an asset to the Prince of Yan. He understood better than anyone that making peace with me was the best strategy. In the future, in your conflict with the Prince of Yan, I won't become his asset. Upon hearing my words, all the worry in his eyes faded away, replaced by relief. With such a promise from you, I can rest easy. He came here personally just to have me speak this promise with my own lips, and not to aid the Prince of Yan, to stand aside and watch. 5 days later, an imperial edict was issued. The imperial family intended to marry Princess Yongjia of the royal clan to the heir of the Prince of Yan. His Majesty personally bestowed this marriage. The Yan kingdom had no reason to refuse. The matter of seeking to marry the Princess of Yue had always been undecided, and now there was no need to bring it up anymore. The predicament was resolved. Xie had already prepared this edict before coming to Yue. Yan and Yue must never be joined by marriage. Otherwise, all his scheming over the past 3 years would have been for nothing. In my previous life, I married him, and royal father upheld the legitimacy of the imperial family, helping the court suppress the rebellious kings. But in this life, my marital fate with him has ended. When war breaks out everywhere in the future, royal father's stance remains unknown. Xie publicly denounced officials who proposed reducing the feudal lord's power, yet secretly made every preparation. He reorganized the imperial guard, established the Yulin Guard and 18 commandants to protect the capital region, added the southern and northern armies, recruited soldiers without regard to convention, and promoted military talents. Additionally, he established roving inspectors in each province, named Imperial Grace, but in reality meant for surveillance. They monitored local governors and the conduct of various vassal kings. In the capital, he set up the inspectorate to supervise the conduct of all officials, preventing them from colluding with the princes. Every single matter, and he had indeed come prepared. He stayed in Yue for 10 days, yet came to play chess with me every day. His chess style no longer held the indecisiveness of his past life, replaced by a more ruthless resolve. Chess reflects the player. He too had lost the gentleness and benevolence of his past life, becoming sharp and unrestrained. In his chess game, what he laid out was the grand situation of the realm. Seeing his confidence and readiness to strike in his words, I wanted to remind him, but ultimately chose to say nothing. Only when he truly contends himself will he know whether his calculations are flawless, or if he is merely obstinate and self-willed. I slowly placed a piece, and a smile spread across his brows and eyes. Meeting a worthy opponent in chess is a blessing in life. Then, his brows lowered slightly, his tone grave. Unfortunately, the crown princess doesn't understand. She can't read the grand situation of this chess game, doesn't know of the endless war drums and devastation to come. Zan only knows to admire flowers, watch snow, and primp before a mirror. There was a hint of barely perceptible annoyance and weariness in his tone. I didn't respond. His eastern palace no longer belonged to Zhang Zhaoying alone. To balance the court and win over noble families, he had taken several secondary consorts and concubines. In their past life, there was only romance between them, no concern for country or realm. Zhang Zhaoying was a favored consort of the prosperous era after the realm was stabilized, smiling as a gentle and understanding flower. Yet she wasn't someone who could stand shoulder to shoulder with him and steady the kingdom during turbulent times. By choosing her, he was destined to fight alone when toiling over state affairs. She would repeat all those schemes she used against me in my past life, one by one in the Eastern Palace's inner court. Zan. I wonder if he'll find them familiar. He has been reborn, so he can experience it all over again. But none of this has anything to do with me anymore. When Xie was leaving the Yue kingdom, he glanced at Feng Che standing not far behind me, and said to me in a low voice, "In your past life when you were gravely ill, he broke into the imperial city, wielding a 3-danshi blade, demanding I pay with my life." Noticing the surprise in my eyes, Xie shook his head with a light laugh and said self-deprecatingly, "So you really didn't know his feelings in your past life?" His expression was complicated. "I hope that in the future we'll be friends, not enemies." I didn't respond. Whether we'd be enemies or friends in the future, Zan I wouldn't dare promise him that. Xie had come incognito on this trip. No one knew his intentions. Royal father was puzzled, yet he knew this matter was definitely connected to me. I didn't explain the whole story to royal father, only saying, "A storm is coming. Have you already made your choice regarding Yue Kingdom's future?" A flicker of hesitation and dejection passed through the royal father's eyes, his voice low. "Your father has grown old, no longer possessing the ambitions of youth. Ever since your mother and brother passed away, I only wish to watch over the people of Yue and live out my days in peace. After I die, I want to be buried together with your mother. Other matters, your father does not wish to be involved in. In the past, he only wanted to be a loyal subject of the Xie clan and had never considered anything else. Now, in his twilight years, he had even less of the boldness and determination of his youth, only wishing to remain content in a corner and live peacefully. But now such thoughts were no longer up to him. The court was grandly preparing for His Majesty's birthday celebration, and prefects and vassal kings from all regions were busy presenting treasures. Everything appeared to be perfectly normal, but in an unnoticed corner, 20,000 elite soldiers were stationed south of the Huiling mountain range at the border of Yan. This was Xiejua's doing. The Prince of Guangyang unexpectedly obtained a rather spiritual bird with soft, dense feathers, resembling a crane in appearance. Upon hearing the sound of bells and chimes, it would spread its wings and cry out, an auspicious omen. The Prince of Guangyang presented it to the palace as a birthday gift for His Majesty. But what arrived at the palace was a dead bird, and the auspicious omen had become an ill portent. His Majesty flew into a rage, claiming it was a deliberate curse and a sign of disloyalty. Using this as pretext, he stripped him of his title and confiscated his family's property. In a single night, the entire household was destroyed. The curse, the disloyalty, they were all just excuses to strike. Xiejuo had been planning for this for a long time, striking first, giving him no chance to catch his breath. In the previous life, the three kings had conspired together, with the Prince of Yan as the leader, and the Prince of Guangyang, and Prince of Liang as his supports. Among them, the Prince of Guangyang had the weakest forces, making him Xiejua's first target to make an example of, using this to intimidate the other princes. With such lightning speed, they had no time to react at all. After the birthday banquet, His Majesty fell gravely ill, already on the verge of death. In the depths of winter, His Majesty passed away. Xiejuo ascended the throne as emperor. The new sovereign ascended the throne, granting amnesty throughout the land, spreading benevolence in all directions. The late emperor had been bedridden for years, and in his final years, he was emperor in name only. Xiejuo had been overseeing state affairs as regent for several years, and had long been the ruler with real power. All the court officials naturally submitted wholeheartedly, but his first decree after ascending the throne was to summon the Prince of Yan and Prince of Liang to the capital, to pay respects and bow before the new sovereign, an imperial decree from the Son of Heaven, and if they refused, it would be defying the royal command if they obeyed. There would be no return. A feudal prince entering the capital, 9 chances of death, 1 of survival. This was blatantly luring them into a trap. They could endure no longer. For the princes, Xiejuo's previous actions were like a blade hanging over their heads, not knowing which day it would fall. The Prince of Yan had long harbored rebellious thoughts, and was not a fish on the chopping board to be slaughtered at will. Advance meant death. Retreat also meant death. The Prince of Yan had no choice. The Prince of Yan rebelled, and the Prince of Liang followed suit. The realm was in turmoil. The empire changed colors. The royal court and the vassal kings in a struggle for power. A battle was bound to come. The King of Yan had long harbored ambitions, scheming for this perhaps over a decade. Xiejuo had only returned for a few years. Even with his past life's memories giving him the upper hand, he might not win so easily. Those 20,000 elite troops only delayed the King of Yan's army for 7 days, failing to completely stop his advance. The Yan army marched south from the north, unstoppable like a knife through bamboo. They joined forces with the King of Liang's army at Mo City, then broke through Wu City and crossed the Ru River. Perhaps I should have reminded Xiejuo that day the King of Yan's strength was far more formidable than he imagined. But in the end, I never warned him. In our past life, The Yue clan and I shouldered too many storms for him, letting him win too easily, so he thought he truly had the ability to stand on his own. This time, I no longer fight by his side, and the Yue clan is no longer the backing that would spill blood and brains for him. This bloody storm, Zan, he'll have to shoulder it alone. This war is more difficult and more brutal than he imagined. He overestimated himself and underestimated the King of Yan. Even with a second chance, his abilities far surpassing his past life. With his strength alone, he still couldn't turn the tide. These past few years, the state of Yue had been conserving strength, building up power for self-preservation, able to protect its people through the chaos of war. When the King of Yan requested passage through the state of Yue, I firmly refused. That night, he actually launched a surprise attack on the city under cover of darkness and wind. Given his ambitions, he naturally wanted to seize the opportunity to swallow up the state of Yue. But I was already prepared. Only when beacon fires blazed across the city walls and war drums thundered, did he realize he had underestimated his enemy. Clad in fitted combat attire, I stood atop the watchtower, watching his men and horses struck by boulders and rolling logs, fire crossbows shooting in volleys, arrows raining down from the sky, wails of agony unceasing. Prince Yan, I've been waiting, my voice echoed from high atop the city wall. Knowing he had fallen into a trap, watching his men flee in panic, he hastily ordered a retreat. Taking the route through Yue was his first defeat in this campaign. Having suffered a setback tonight, Prince Yan wouldn't entangle himself further with Yue, and he would surely find another path and press straight toward the imperial capital. Father gave me the royal seal. When the nest is overturned, no egg remains intact. If enduring in silence won't bring peace, then we fight. By now, Father also understood that without fighting, there was no way to survive. Whether Prince Yan won or Shizhuo won, Yue would be fish on someone else's chopping board. If Prince Yan won, he would naturally demand the world's submission. Zan Yue would either become surrendered subjects of the Yan clan, or souls fallen beneath the blade. If Shizhuo won, the imperial court abolishing feudal domains would be imminent. Yue was also a feudal domain. Zan when Shizhuo's blade turned, it would point at the Yue clan. With things as they are, the Yue clan has no choice either. The moment my words fell, Father knew what I intended to do. By giving me the royal seal, he granted me authority, and all forces throughout Yue were now under my command. I stood on the heights, gazing toward the capital. Perhaps the capital would fall within half a month. It would come even faster than in my previous life. The wind rose. I stood on the watchtower gazing at the starry sky, murmuring to myself, Zhizhuo, in this life, I only promised not to help the King of Yan. I never said I wouldn't fight for myself, so this doesn't count as breaking my word. In merely 7 days, the imperial city fell, faster than I had imagined. While the war raged on, Zhang Zhaoying left the capital in a fit of anger. In desperate need of capable men, Shizhuo had promoted military talents, and to win their loyalty, showered favor upon the daughters of military families in the harem, neglecting her for a long time. Seeing the imperial city in peril, she left a farewell letter, severed ties with Shizhuo, disguised herself in a palace maid's clothes, slipped out of the city, and planned to flee to an island in the east. But unexpectedly, she was captured by rebel forces along the way. To save her own life, she actually told the King of Yan that all the troops from the 3 western cities had been redeployed to defend the capital. The 3 cities were left empty and unguarded, with only the elderly, the weak, women, and children remaining. The King of Yan took Yancheng, Lucheng, and Gucheng, without shedding a drop of blood. Shizhuo lost 3 cities in succession. After the King of Yan's failed attempt to pass through the state of Yue, he changed course to Lingzhou, sweeping everything before him along the way, meeting no resistance. Now, the capital was in grave danger. Shizhuo had fled in advance with his officials and consorts, retreating to the Heiyang traveling palace. Relying on natural defenses that made it easy to defend and hard to attack, they were now in a standoff with the King of Yan's army. Though no one knew how much longer this stalemate could last. Perhaps only at this moment could Xie finally realize his own obstinacy and arrogance. The Prince of Yan's army had long fought against the northern steppe tribes. They were battled and hardened elites who had experienced real slaughter on the battlefield. But what Xie had were merely soldiers hastily recruited in recent years, who had never witnessed the life and death struggles of war firsthand. Not to mention that wherever the Prince of Yan went along the way, the prefects and soldiers voluntarily surrendered, and they had long forgotten how to fight, after years of indulging in wine and comfort. Though Xie had retreated to the Heiyang traveling palace, he was still the emperor in name. He issued several edicts in succession, ordering the Yue clan to come to his rescue. When the eunuch messenger arrived at the Yue kingdom's palace, he was already on his last breath. By the emperor's decree, the Yue clan is ordered to send troops to defend the throne. Along with the edict, there was also a letter. His Majesty said to deliver these personally to the Wangzhu. His Majesty promises that if the rebels are repelled, he will rekindle his relationship with the Wangzhu in the future, share the realm together, rule as two sovereigns at court, without distinction of rank. As his words fell, the eunuch breathed his last. I ordered him to be buried with honor. Feng Che asked me, Wangzhu, shall we send troops? No rush, the time hasn't come yet. In my past life, the Yue clan and I risked our lives without hesitation, devoted ourselves completely. Yet we were never treated well. Now, what makes him think his empty promises can get me to send troops to help him? What I want isn't some two sovereigns at court. Sharing the realm it is the supreme throne. For me alone, in my past life, I show Ed for him. This life, I'll fight for myself. Though the Heiyang traveling palace is easy to defend and hard to attack, the provisions there can only last half a month at most. The King of Yan's forces, having campaigned all the way here, are already an exhausted army, so they've set up camp, waiting for their prey to come to them. Morale at the Heiyang traveling palace has collapsed. Everyone knows that dragging this out is just waiting for death. The stars have shifted. The perfect opportunity has arrived. Soldiers of Yue, march with me, rescue the king, save the throne, and slay the traitors. For today, my preparations are no less than what Xie has done. The Feiyun cavalry is an elite force I personally trained, layer upon layer of selection, years of tempering. All for today's glory. The King of Yan's rebellion is known to all under heaven. Now I raise troops by imperial decree to subjugate him, and this campaign has a righteous cause. I should even thank Xie for handing me this perfectly legitimate banner. This battle has dragged on too long for the King of Yan. His army came from the north, traveling far, and unaccustomed to the climate Zan. They're already showing fatigue. Right now he is deep in the heartland, caught between attacks from front and back. Enemies on all sides. Neither Xie nor the King of Yan ever expected that the 12 southwestern tribes are all my allies. The barbarian tribes aren't good at scheming, but they're fierce and skilled in battle. At my command, they become the blade in my palm. Back then, I brought physicians from Yue to cure the tribe's plague, healed their chieftain, and saved them from peril. In today's battle, they too are willing to lend their full strength to aid Yue. The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. The King of Yan's army had long overexerted itself and was already exhausted. My Yue kingdom's grand army had been conserving strength, waiting for this very day. The Yan army was cut off at its heartland by my forces, shattered into pieces like scattered sand. The King of Liang also died in the chaos, severely damaging their morale. The King of Yan's defeat was already apparent, yet he still refused to accept it. What can that Xie brat offer you? I can offer you double. If you help him now, once he secures his throne, He'll surely move against vassal kings of different surnames first. When the birds are gone, the bow is stored away. When the rabbits are dead, the hounds are cooked Zan, that will be your fate. The king of Yan, besieged in his lone city, still tried to sow discord with his words, hoping I could be of use to him. I sat astride my horse, red Zan-tasseled spear pointing straight at the sky, and declared loudly, "King of Yan, both you and Xiejua want me to serve you. But have you ever considered that supreme power is a fine thing, Zan, and I want it too?" The king of Yan's hand trembled as he pointed at me, then threw his head back in laughter. "What a princess of the Yue clan! So ambitious you even dare to reach for imperial power. That Xie brat should see this, and his loss, is well deserved." Yes, Xiejua's loss was well deserved. He had never truly acknowledged my ambition and abilities. His repeated promises still treated me as an appendage from the previous life, only fit to pave the way for him. Stubborn and self-righteous, he trapped himself in his own cocoon. When I breached the city, the king of Yan took his own life. He couldn't accept losing at my hands. Such an ending was just as well. I saw Zhang Zhaoying in the city dungeon. She had been tortured beyond recognition, her flesh a bloody mess. Her lips murmured of hatred. "Who do you hate?" I slowly spoke. "I hate Xiejua," she responded instinctively. She only had this last breath left, this last breath sustained by hatred. "He is about to die. You don't have to hate anymore." I was about to step away when her hand dropped heavily, as if her obsession had finally ended. The king of Yan was dead. The isolated city had fallen. The Heyang traveling palace was no longer under threat. Xiejua's features were gaunt, his imperial robes covered in dust. When he saw me, emotion stirred in his eyes, his voice slightly choked. "Ye Zheng, among all the women in this world, only you understand me and help me. I knew you would come." In my past life, when I relieved him from the siege of Luocheng and saved him at the brink of life and death, he had said the same thing. But later, "What did I get in return?" he continued. "I regret everything I did before. I have wronged you. Then has your majesty thought about how to make it up to me? I will make you my empress, share the realm with you, keep the harem empty, with only you alone." Before his words even finished, the red Zan-tasseled spear in my hand had already pierced through his chest, blood staining his robes, his eyes filled with utter disbelief. The moment he collapsed to the ground in pain, I smiled and said, "But what I want is not to share the empire with you. What I want is the supreme throne, the power over life and death. What you bestow upon me, how could it ever compare to what I seize with my own hands?" Before he drew his last breath, I spoke again. "The Prince of Yan committed treason. His Majesty was slain by him at Heyang Palace. The Xie dynasty ends here. The princess of the Yue clan answered the call to defend the throne, purged the traitors, and rebuilt a new dynasty. The official histories will record it exactly like this. Your Majesty, your vengeance, Dan, I have exacted it for you. You may rest in peace now." His fingers trembled slightly, yet he could do nothing. Official histories, Dan, those are written by the victors. What I speak is the Sodzan called truth that future generations will see. The war has ended, and everything awaits renewal. The Xie clan has fallen, the great Yin has perished. I established a new dynasty, named it Yue, and set the capital at Yujing. I honored my royal father as the retired emperor, but he was already old, holding fast to the royal city of Yue, unwilling to leave. I stood atop Yujing, gazing upon jade towers and palaces, mountains and rivers in splendor. Feng Che stood beside me, puzzled. "Your Majesty seems quite fond of the view here." "It is not the scenery, but the state of mind. Never again will I be trapped in the love and hatred of others. I am the ruler of this world." I chuckled indifferently. Feng Che's gaze was resolute. Then he slowly said, "This subject will devote my entire life's efforts to help your Majesty expand the territory, and pacify the 4 barbarian tribes.